The city never truly slept. Even at night, the towers glowed with soft blue lights, air traffic hummed above, and screens whispered news in dozens of languages. People moved fast, eyes forward, minds busy. In this future megacity, humans and aliens lived side by side but not always together. They shared streets, not lives. Elias Ward walked through one of the lower transit districts, holding his daughter's small hand. His boots were worn, his jacket old but clean. He looked tired in a quiet way, the kind of tired that never fully leaves. Myra skipped beside him, her dark hair tied back, her eyes wide with curiosity. She was 8 years old and the world still felt new to her. Elias worked long shifts repairing city infrastructure. He used to be a deep space engineer before the accident that took his wife. Since then, his life had become smaller and heavier. Everything he did now was for Myra. He made sure she went to school, ate warm food, and slept safely. He taught her to be polite, careful, and strong. They were almost home when Myra slowed her steps. "Daddy?" she asked softly. "Yes, sweetheart," Elias replied, already scanning the street out of habit. Myra pointed ahead. Near the edge of the walkway, between a broken light panel and a sealed storefront, someone lay on the ground. At first glance, she looked like a bundle of cloth. But then Elias saw a thin arm move, slow and weak. "Daddy," Myra said again, her voice lower now. "Why is that woman sleeping on the street?" Elias stopped walking. People passed them without slowing. Some glanced at the figure and looked away. Others stepped wider around her, as if fear might spread through touch. A drone hovered briefly, scanned the area, and moved on. No alert sounded. No help came. Elias stared at the woman. She was not human. Her skin was a pale silver blue, marked with faint lines that glowed softly in the dark. Her breathing was shallow. Her clothes were torn and dirty, clearly not made for the cold night air. He felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He had seen scenes like this before. Displaced aliens were not rare in the lower districts. Wars, collapsed alliances, and corporate conflicts left many behind. The city allowed them to exist, but not much more. "Daddy," Myra tugged his hand. "Is she sick?" Elias swallowed. "Maybe," he said. "Why isn't anyone helping her?" He looked around again. The answer was simple, but saying it felt wrong. "Because," he began slowly, "people are afraid. And sometimes they think it's not their problem." Myra frowned. "But you always say we help people when we can." Elias felt the words land like a quiet ooh-da-ah air. He had said that many times, usually in small ways, holding doors, sharing food, standing up for someone at school. "This is different," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. "The city has rules, and that woman, she's not human." Myra looked back at the woman. Then she looked up at her father. Her eyes were not angry. They were confused. "But she's still someone," Myra said. "She's not sleeping. She looks hurt." Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He thought of his wife, Lena, who had once stopped their car to help a stranded alien trader, even though they were late. He remembered arguing with her afterward, worried about safety, about rules. She had smiled and told him that rules meant nothing if they erased kindness. That memory hurt more than he expected. He opened his eyes and looked at the woman again. Up close, he could see dried blood near her shoulder. Her hands trembled. She was barely conscious. "Daddy," Myra whispered, "if it was me, would you help?" "Yes," Elias said immediately. "Then why not her?" He had no answer. Elias sighed, a long breath that felt like letting go of something heavy. "Stay here," he told Myra gently. He approached the woman slowly, kneeling beside her. Up close, she looked even smaller. Her eyes fluttered open, revealing dark pupils ringed with faint light. Fear flashed across her face. "It's okay," Elias said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Elias noticed a small device embedded near her neck, damaged and sparking faintly. A translator implant, he realized. Broken. Elias took off his jacket and carefully placed it over her shoulders. She flinched but did not pull away. Her skin was cold. "We can't just leave her," Myra said, coming closer. Elias nodded. "I know." He looked around again. No authorities, no medics. If he called emergency services, they might detain her or worse. He had seen how displaced aliens were treated when they were labeled unregistered. "Okay," he said quietly. "We're going to help her, but we have to be careful." He gently lifted the woman. She was lighter than he expected, almost fragile. Myra held onto his leg as they walked, looking back nervously. The walk home felt longer than usual. Elias' heart pounded with every step. He expected alarms, drones, someone shouting for him to stop, but nothing happened. The city did not care. His apartment was small but clean. He laid the woman on the couch and quickly adjusted the temperature. Myra brought a blanket without being asked. Elias cleaned the wound on the woman's shoulder as best he could. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew basic first aid. The wound looked like a burn, possibly from a weapon or machinery. The woman stirred and made a faint sound. "It's okay," Elias repeated. "You're safe for now." Her eyes focused on him, then on Myra. She looked confused, then afraid. Myra smiled gently. "Hi," she said, as if meeting someone at school. "My name is Myra." The woman stared, then slowly raised a hand. She touched her chest and spoke a word Elias didn't understand. She said her name, Myra guessed. "Probably," Elias said. The woman's eyes closed again. Elias worked quietly, focused, but his mind raced. Who was she? Why was she alone? And most importantly, who would come looking for her? Later that night, after Myra had gone to bed, Elias sat on a chair near the couch, watching the woman breathe. The city lights filtered through the window, casting shadows across the room. He felt fear, real fear. Helping her could cost him his job, his home, even Myra. The system did not forgive rule breakers easily, especially those who interfered with alien affairs. But when he looked at his daughter's closed bedroom door, he knew he would make the same choice again. In the early hours of the morning, the woman woke fully. She tried to sit up, but Elias gently stopped her. "Easy," he said. "You're injured." She looked around, confused. Her gaze lingered on the walls, the simple furniture, the family photos. When she saw the photo of Elias, Myra, and Lena, her expression softened. "You helped me," she said, her voice weak but clear. The translator was working again, barely. "Yes," Elias replied. "My daughter asked a question. I couldn't ignore it." The woman studied him. "Humans usually do." Elias didn't argue. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyran." "Why were you on the street?" he asked. Lyran looked away. "Because my people are gone. And those who remain are hunted." Elias felt a chill. "Hunted by who?" "Those who profit from silence," she said. Before he could ask more, a soft alert sounded from his wall panel. Someone was scanning the building. Elias' heart sank. Lyran looked at him sharply. "They're close," she said. "You must send me away." "No," Elias said without thinking. "They will take your child," Lyran warned. Elias clenched his fists. "They'll have to get through me first." Lyran looked at him in disbelief. "Why?" Elias thought of Myra's question. He thought of the way she had looked at the woman on the street, not as an alien, not as a problem, but as a person. "Because," he said simply, "someone had to answer her properly." Outside, the city continued to glow, unaware that a quiet act of kindness had already begun to change something far larger than one family. And this was only the beginning. Morning came slowly, like the city itself was unsure whether it wanted to wake up. Pale light slipped through the narrow window of Elias' apartment. The scanning sound outside had stopped during the night, but the fear it left behind did not fade so easily. Elias had not slept. He sat near the couch, listening to Lyran's breathing, every small sound making his muscles tense. When the city grew quiet before dawn, he finally allowed himself to move. Lyran was awake again. She sat upright now, her back against the couch, her silver-blue skin looking slightly warmer than before. The wound on her shoulder was still there, but the bleeding had stopped. "You stayed," she said softly. "Yes," Elias replied, "and we will for now." She studied his face closely. "You are afraid," he nodded. "Yes." "Then why do you remain?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because leaving would teach my daughter the wrong lesson." Lyron's eyes shifted toward Myra's bedroom door. "The child," she said. She looked at me without fear. "She's still learning how the world works," Elias said. "I don't want her to learn the wrong things too early." Lyron lowered her gaze. "My people once believed humans were careless with emotion, weak, dangerous because of it." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "Sometimes that's true." A soft sound came from the hallway. Myra appeared, rubbing her eyes, still half asleep. When she saw Lyron sitting up, she froze. "Daddy," she whispered. "It's okay," Elias said quickly. "She's awake now." Myra walked closer, slow and careful. "Are you feeling better?" she asked Lyron. Lyron hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, because of you." Myra smiled. It was the simple smile of a child who felt she had done something right. Elias felt his chest tighten again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was pride mixed with worry. They shared a quiet breakfast. Elias gave Lyron warm nutrient soup, the kind he usually kept for Myra when she was sick. Lyron drank slowly, as if each sip reminded her she was still alive. "I cannot stay long," Lyron said after a while. "Those who search for me are patient." "Who are they?" Elias asked. "Corporate security forces," Lyron replied. "They control the lower districts, though they pretend they do not. They want what I know." "And what is that?" Elias asked. Lyron looked at Myra, then back at Elias. "The truth about what happened to my world." Elias felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Before he could respond, the apartment panel chimed softly. Elias stiffened. He moved toward the door, checking the feed. Two figures stood outside, both human, both wearing city enforcement uniforms. Myra grabbed his hand. "Daddy?" "Stay back," Elias said gently. He opened the door just enough to speak. "Mr. Ward," one of the officers said, "routine check. We received a report of unusual energy readings in this building." Elias kept his face calm. "I don't know anything about that." The officer's eyes flicked past him, trying to see inside. "May we enter?" Elias' heart pounded. "Is there a warrant?" The officer smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Not yet." Elias shook his head. "Then no." There was a long pause. Myra held her breath behind him. "Very well," the officer said finally. "We'll be back." The door closed. Elias leaned against it, exhaling slowly. "They are testing you," Lyron said quietly. "They want you to make a mistake." "What do we do?" Myra asked. Elias knelt beside her. "We stay calm. And we make a plan." The plan formed slowly and carefully. Elias contacted an old friend from his engineering days, someone who worked off-grid, repairing illegal transit systems. The man owed Elias a favor. He agreed to help, but only once. "We can move her tonight," the friend said through a scrambled channel. "There's a safe zone beneath the old mag rails. People hide there." "People?" Elias asked. "Humans and aliens," the friend replied. "The ones the city doesn't care about." When night fell again, the city seemed more watchful than before. Drones moved in slow patterns. Screens flashed warnings about curfews and compliance. Lyron wrapped herself in Elias' jacket once more. Myra helped her, tying the fabric gently. "You don't have to come," Lyron said to Elias. "I can go alone." "No," Elias said. "We go together." They moved through side corridors and maintenance paths Elias knew well. He had worked on this city long enough to understand its hidden veins. At one point they had to stop and hide as a patrol passed nearby. Myra pressed her face into Elias' side, silent and brave. Lyron watched her with something like awe. "You teach your child well," Lyron whispered. Elias didn't answer. He was focused on keeping them alive. They reached the entrance to the old mag-rail tunnels just before midnight. The place smelled of dust and old metal. Lights flickered weakly along the walls. Inside they found others. Humans missing limbs. Aliens wrapped in cloaks. Children huddled close to parents. All of them looked tired. All of them looked forgotten. A woman stepped forward, her skin marked with old scars. "You shouldn't have brought her here," she said, looking at Lyran. "They'll come anyway," Lyran replied. The woman sighed. "Then we prepare." Elias realized this was more than a hiding place. It was a quiet resistance. Over the next days, Elias helped where he could. He fixed broken generators, rerouted power, and taught others basic repairs. Myra played with the children, human and alien alike, without noticing the differences adults obsessed over. Lyran regained her strength slowly. She spoke often with the others, sharing stories of her people, of their science and their mistakes. Elias listened when he could. One night, Lyran spoke to Elias alone. "My people once believed survival came from strength alone," she said. "But strength without compassion destroyed us." Elias nodded. "Humans almost learned that lesson the hard way too." Lyran looked at him seriously. "What you are doing will not stay hidden, they will respond." "I know," Elias said, "but my daughter is watching. I can't pretend anymore." The response came sooner than expected. A massive broadcast filled every screen in the city. A corporate spokesperson appeared, calm and smiling. "We are aware of illegal harboring of unregistered alien individuals," the voice said. "This is a threat to public safety. Cooperation will be rewarded." The tunnels fell silent. "They mean us," Myra whispered. Elias held her close. "Yes." Lyran stood taller than Elias had ever seen her. "Then it is time," she said. "Time for what?" Elias asked. "To stop running," Lyran replied, "and tell the galaxy what really happened." Elias felt fear rise again, but beneath it was something else. Resolve. Outside, the city lights burned brighter, unaware that the quiet kindness of a single father and his daughter was about to challenge an entire system. And once again, it all traced back to a simple question asked on a street no one else wanted to see. The city changed its tone after the broadcast. The lights were brighter, the drones louder, and the patrols more frequent. It was as if the megacity itself had grown nervous. In the tunnels beneath the old mag rails, everyone felt it. Elias stood near a cracked support pillar, listening to distant vibrations from above. Myra sat beside him, holding a small alien child's hand. She looked calm, but Elias could feel her fear through the way she leaned against him. Lyran gathered the others in the largest open section of the tunnel. Humans and aliens formed a loose circle around her. Some were injured, some were angry, many were simply tired. "They will come," Lyran said plainly, "not because we are dangerous, but because we are inconvenient." A low murmur spread through the group. Elias stepped forward. "What exactly do they want from you?" Lyran looked at him. "They want silence." "My world did not fall from war alone. It was drained, stripped of resources by corporations that promised protection. When my people resisted, they were labeled unstable. Their collapse was written as a natural failure." Elias felt his fists tighten. "And you can prove this." "Yes," Lyran said. "I carry records, agreements, orders, data meant to be erased with me." A man in the crowd shook his head. "Even if that's true, no one listens to people like us." Lyran turned her gaze to Myra. The child looked up, confused at first, then curious. "Why are you looking at me?" she asked. "Because," Lyran said softly, "you listened when no one else did." The room fell quiet. Elias understood then. This was not just about evidence. It was about witnesses, about stories that could not be easily dismissed. Lyran activated the damaged device near her neck. The air shimmered slightly as a weak projection appeared. Images filled the tunnel walls, alien cities full of light, then stripped bare. Contracts signed by human and alien executives. Reports marked confidential. Faces of leaders smiling for cameras while entire worlds starved. Gasps echoed around the tunnel. "They told the galaxy my people were careless," Lyran said. "They said we failed ourselves." Elias felt anger burn in his chest. Not loud, not explosive, but steady and dangerous. "What do we do?" someone asked. Lyran looked at Elias. "We tell the truth publicly everywhere." Elias hesitated. "If we do that, they'll come down here with force." Yes, Lyran agreed. And then they will be seen. That night, Elias made a choice he never imagined making. Using old access codes and patch systems, he helped Lyran connect to broadcast nodes hidden throughout the city. They were weak alone, but together they formed a web. Myra watched quietly as screens flickered to life. "Daddy," she asked, "are we doing the right thing?" Elias knelt in front of her. "I don't know if it's the safe thing," he said honestly, "but I know it's the right thing." Myra nodded slowly. "Then I'm not scared." The broadcast began without warning. Across the megacity, screens glitched. Advertisements froze. News anchors vanished mid-sentence. Then Lyran's image appeared, standing in the tunnels, surrounded by humans and aliens alike. "My name is Lyran," she said, her voice steady. "I was left to die on your streets because I know the truth." The city stopped. People slowed. Vehicles paused. Workers looked up from terminals. Parents pulled children closer. Lyran spoke of her world, of promises made and broken, of resources taken and lives discarded. Elias watched the comments and signals pour in as the message spread beyond the city, beyond the planet. Then Myra stepped into view. "I saw her on the street," the girl said, her small voice clear. "She was hurt. I asked my daddy why no one was helping her." Elias' heart nearly broke. "And he helped," Myra continued, "because he said people matter." Silence followed. Not the empty silence of indifference, but the heavy kind that comes before change. The response was immediate. Corporate forces moved fast, sealing streets and cutting power. They found the tunnel entrance within hours. Armed units descended, their lights piercing the darkness. Elias stood in front of Myra as the soldiers approached. "This is an illegal gathering," the lead officer announced. "Step aside." Lyran moved forward. "The galaxy is watching," she said. "Do you still intend to erase us?" The officer hesitated. His visor reflected dozens of recording drones now hovering in the air. Independent media. Civilian feeds. Witnesses. Orders crackled through his comm, sharp and angry. Then another voice followed, quieter, uncertain. "Stand down," the officer said finally. The soldiers lowered their weapons. Above ground, protests erupted. Humans and aliens filled the streets together, holding signs, sharing screens, demanding answers. Governments called emergency sessions. Trade alliances froze. The corporations denied everything, but the data was too clear, too widespread, too human. Elias lost his job the next day. His access codes were revoked, his accounts frozen. But when he walked through the city with Myra, strangers nodded at him. Some thanked him, others simply smiled. Lyran was granted asylum, not quietly, publicly. Her testimony became required viewing in universities across multiple systems. Months passed. The megacity did not become perfect, but it became different. Aid centers opened in districts once ignored. Laws changed, slowly and under pressure. One evening, Elias and Myra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights were softer now. "Daddy," Myra said, "do you think the woman on the street remembers me?" Elias smiled. "I don't think she'll ever forget you." Lyran visited often. She had become an advisor, a bridge between worlds, but she never forgot where it started. "The galaxy will study this," she told Elias once. "They will say it was a turning point." Elias shook his head. "It was just a question." Lyran smiled. "Those are the most dangerous things of all." Years later, Myra stood in a classroom, older now, confident. She told the story to her classmates, human and alien. "My dad didn't save the galaxy," she said. "He just listened to me." And across the stars, when humans were spoken of, they were no longer described as weak or careless. They were described as the ones who stop, who listen, and who choose to care.